Hey everyone, what's up? What's going on? It's me, Joe. Obviously, you guys missed me. How were those past two episodes where Mike did the intros, huh? Is he better than me? Did you like that? I mean, did he just... Okay, I'm not gonna do that bit. That's just gonna go to a weird and dark place. Anyway, let's do the announcements real quick and get on with the episodes. Hey Joe, do you guys have a Facebook group? Boy, do we ever. And it's called How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The Facebook group. And it's got movie news, it's got movie trailers, and you bet your ass it has movie memes. And, at least once an episode, we read your comments from the group about the movie that we're reviewing. That episode, obviously. How cool is that? Also, support the podcast, man. If you go to howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com, you can buy some HMF merch, including t-shirts, koozies, and stickers. Yeah, go do that. For any other links that you're looking for, I'm sure you can find them at our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. We got a great episode for you tonight. Ross Weisman of Kid Flicks Podcast is here, and we're reviewing Crazy Rich Asians. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Crazy Poor Mike.
And I'm Crazy Poor Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week, we're reviewing Crazy Rich Asians.
And we're definitely not bitter about it.
Nope. Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting huma nuka nuka plowed and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
That was better than I expected.
Or,
was it?
Sorry, let me give that a second go. Featuring two guys getting...
Was that you?
Is it Mike?
Sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, guys. Which I guess is the Hawaiian name for the reef triggerfish.
And that was a synonym for drunk left to us by Evan Vinjamari.
Thank you so much, Evan. Thank you, sincerely.
Evan, do you like that fish?
What's
Is that your favorite fish, buddy?
What's it look like?
But let's delay no further. Betwixt us for the second time on an official episode of this podcast. Third time, I guess, technically on the podcast. Ross Weisman.
Hey.
Of the Kid Flicks Podcast. Yep. He was on our episode of Mudbound, which is now officially our most played episode of this podcast ever.
So many people got to hear.
We're bringing him back to get that algorithm going.
on. My gosh.
Are you okay? How to pronounce Joe Lomas.
We were joking about how... Because I was trying to look up how to pronounce this.
Mike, we were saying...
Ugh.
There is.
When we were off mic, we were joking about how we always talk about things off mic.
Guys, we were so funny off mic. You should come to the apartment.
Oh God!
You guys should really stop by the apartment sometime and listen to us.
You had to be there. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. You get to park next to a graveyard.
Oh, now that we've alienated you all, there's all these pronunciation videos, but they're not pronounced by an actual person. It's just that computer voice that you heard before.
Mm-hmm. I've been so curious about how that works, because I remember when Siri was first introduced, all these people were like, who voiced Siri? And this woman was like, it was me. And so I think, I don't really know how these people record stuff, but I think they either in my head, they record every word in the dictionary, which doesn't make sense to me. Or they're just like, I'm just going to say random syllables.
Right.
And then like the computer will do that.
Yeah, I think they do all the different syllables and all the different intonations. Because I'd imagine that's less than every word in the dictionary. Although maybe I'm crazy for thinking that. Maybe it's the
No.
other way
Oh, it's
around.
definitely less than in the dictionary. There's like 1,000 words in the dictionary.
There's at least 250.
Yeah, what the fuck was I even gonna say before I had a text to speech stroke?
I love that you paused the conversation on to be like, here's what I'm gonna say. Just like, I'm not in this right now.
Yeah, no, that is our biggest
Yes, over 1,000
SoundCloud.
plays.
Yeah, sometimes we'll get a spike on YouTube too.
Yeah. He was also on our live episode at the Philadelphia Podcast Festival.
Yeah.
This summer.
And then we ate
And then
cheesesteaks afterward.
We did, yeah.
They were fine.
You can find us on his podcast.
It was actually a bad cheesesteak in my opinion.
was actually.
I feel like it wasn't hot enough. Like they
it wasn't
didn't cook it.
seasoned enough. It was just steak with
That's
like,
why he's the
hardly
prince of
even
steaks.
pepper on it.
The steak wasn't like cut right either. It was just these thick chunks of steak.
You just got like on a roll is just like a bunch of fat,
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up now.
like a Parmesan rind.
Call him out. I think I left a review on Google. for it.
Oh my god. I've never liked or disliked something enough to leave a review. I'm like, somebody else cares more.
I do like the Google Guides thing just to like keep me occupied sometimes. You just like scroll through and you're like, oh, I did go to these places, and Google tracked where I was at all times.
Yeah, so how's the job search going?
I am unemployed.
Was it Steve's Prince of Steaks?
It was.
Yes.
All right, guys, go on there and leave a bad review. Because all three of us didn't like it.
At like Steve's HQ, they're like, hey boss, a bunch of people are just leaving us fingers. 0 fingers. I don't know if this is a threat or we're missing something in the cultural zeitgeist.
I really don't understand this rating scale that all these new viewers have left us.
They said there wasn't enough fingers in the steak.
Boss, I think we gotta start putting fingers in the steak. Yeah, but like later, I went to somebody's birthday party in Philly, and everyone was hungry, and they were like, I want a Philadelphia cheesesteak. And then I looked it up on my phone, and that was the only place that was like close, and I was like,
Oh.
all right, guys,
went back.
I know a place. Yeah, and everyone didn't like it, and like they were
Honestly, get one from Wawa.
should have.
I think it's objectively not good.
Yeah,
Steve's Prince of Steaks.
Yeah, Steve, come on the podcast.
Prince, more like the Archduke of something. He's not next in line for the throne of steaks.
It's royalty, Mike.
Also, what kind of a name is Prince Steve? Come on!
That's like King Ralph. So I was on your podcast, you were on my podcast.
Oh yeah, I joined. If you want to check that out, I joined Ross for his live episode of Kid Flicks at Tattooed Mom.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia.
That place was cool. My dad was there. He fell asleep during the recording.
Of your episode.
Well, we were talking about it off mic, and we got to stop talking about things off mic. But it was like,
Hey, welcome to Off Mic, the podcast. So previously we were talking about...
well, it's like
It was so funny. You had to be there.
well, we were talking about like day drinking, how that's just exhausting. And
Oh, yeah.
my dad is in his late 50s, so like for him, one beer is like 2 beers, or I don't know, I don't know what the
was day
ratio.
drinking.
Yeah, and I had a Diet Coke.
Yeah, you did, but you had like the little.
I had a lime in it, so people would think that I was cool.
Right. Is that a flourish or what is
Garnish.
Garnish.
A flourish is if I drank it
Flourish
like
as if you had
This is the Ross way.
came out with like streamers.
Well, your dad didn't fall asleep at the beginning because I was just mostly making eye contact with him when I was
Yeah, and-
reading Anthony Lane's review of Incredibles 2. Talking about how sexy
How
the
thick Elastigirl is.
and how parents should be having sex in movie theater aisles and how a bucket of popcorn should be launched in the sky from like men's erections.
I don't think I've been on one date to the movies, and I I feel like
Only one time have I launched a bucket of popcorn. It's not as common as you think.
Wait, do you want to guess what movie I suggested for a second date?
Oh, a second date. Where was the first date?
This was February of last year.
February. Get Out.
Oh, that would have been good. We went to see Lego Batman.
That's a good
not
movie,
bad.
though.
Yeah. And it was really awkward because like going on a date to the movies or just like watching TV or something as a date or something is like one part of you is like, oh, this is nice little white noise so we can like snuggle up and stuff. But on the other hand, it's like, I really want to watch.
I want to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Don't touch me.
Right. I give that 4.5 fingers. This is serious business.
I had no idea. No, we didn't go out after that, but
It was a good movie, though, I can imagine.
yeah. But you know, there was when I saw the movie that we're talking about today, the only other people in the theater was a couple probably on a date.
Okay.
So boom, transition.
This is a good... Honestly, I really like this movie. It's obviously...
Your fingers are showing.
It's
Oh, I love that phrase. That's a keeper.
oh man,
not use that.
oh man, that's gonna be something that's revisited too heavily in the future.
This is your merch.
Yes. Yeah, I almost wanted to like tell people. I was like, "This is a good date movie." This
Did
is
you,
like
did you see this with your girlfriend?
Yeah. Because she wanted to go. But I also saw it seemed like people were maybe. I mean, like, is it a date when you've been dating, a person for a ton of years? But
No,
Yeah.
it's not. The magic is gone.
Then it's basically an errand. Well, yeah.
What a
'cause-
chore, am I right?
well, I was like saying when you asked,
God,
so
my-
weird.
My girlfriend's gonna listen to this.
Oh God, baby, I'm so sorry. Take me back.
well, I was glad that you guys suggested this as like one of the options because my brother and his fiance have seen it, and also my parents have seen it. So I'm the only one in the family that hadn't seen it.
Right.
And would you like me to tell you guys the context of the photo that I took?
Yes.
Ross
Send
sent
me
us
a
an
photo.
ominous picture and said, "I will explain this."
We're gonna have to
later."
post this to our like Facebook and Twitter before this episode airs.
So if you're like driving or something, or whatever. So it's a photo of me. I'm sitting clearly in a nearly empty theater with a huge box of popcorn.
It's like a giant square of popcorn.
It's like
not a bucket.
It's like if someone took SpongeBob's SquarePants and filled it with popcorn. So I decided to go to the movie by myself. I was like, oh, it's like it'll just be a nice night by myself. I thought I'll go to the movie theater early. I've been wanting to try AMC's MacGuffin's bar. Bar was closed because it was in the suburbs and no one wanted to drink at 9:30 on a Thursday. Then. Oh, my voice just did a gross thing. Cut that out.
Future Mike, cut that shit out.
So then I was like, okay, there's no drink. I'll get a little popcorn. And I see all these people all around me, and everybody has this giant like SquarePants box of popcorn. And I'm like, I guess there's a deal on like a big thing. And I was like, I just want a small popcorn. And the lady said, that's it? Okay. And then she gave me a giant box and didn't charge me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so I go into the theater, there's nobody else. I sit by myself, and I ate probably half of that box, and I kept having to restrain myself during the movie. I kept putting it like further and further away from me on empty
Different
seats.
seat, yeah.
Yeah. And then at one point I thought I saw a mouse. So I was like, oh, great. Now I won't want to eat the popcorn. And then by like the end of the movie, I was like, it's gone.
Isn't it right?
Yeah. So I had a very harrowing experience.
So what was the deal? Just free popcorn?
I have no idea.
Or is it like the end of the night and they're just trying to get rid of
That might have been
shit?
it.
But
It
then you would
was-
think they would charge for it at
We
least
ate too much popcorn.
$1 popcorn. or
Yeah, it's like
something
a
at
commercial
least.
for cereal. Like, but yeah, well, it wasn't even good popcorn. So that's probably why. It was like
I don't like theater popcorn. I think
it's like somebody
gross.
opened like Smart Pop and then forgot to close it for a day.
Yeah. You also sent us a message that said Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey did a Twizzlers commercial, and I was really curious about that too. I didn't see that. Yeah.
So the whole premise of the ad is that Ronda Rousey is like hitting a punching bag, and someone hands her a Twizzler, and she starts laughing. And I didn't realize that the tagline for Twizzlers is like, you can't smile, you can't not smile if you got a Twizzlers.
And then she stops hitting the bag? Like,
I was also going to text you guys about...
interrupt your workout routine with the Twizzlers.
After that fight that I lost, I thought about killing myself. Then somebody handed me a Twizzler.
And I was like, you know what? Look on the sunny side, Rhonda. So what if I was a terrible SNL host? At least I got Twizzlers. I also nearly texted you guys. Apparently the host of like AMC First Look or whatever the hell it's called now, she has a podcast.
What, Maria Menounos?
Yeah. She's like, it's like Gabbing with Menudo or whatever. It was so vague too. She's like, listen to my podcast every week. I talk to someone. It's like, that sounds about right. I want her job. I'm amazed that that's how she makes a living, is standing behind a green screen and being like, Netflix gave you an inside look at Iron Fist season 2.
She did something before that. She's from some kind of TV.
What is she from?
It's some like morning or daily show she used to do on one of those
Ask
networks.
the pronunciation.
How to pronounce Menounos.
Who could forget? I'm also impressed that you guys remembered her name, because I'm just like, yeah, her.
Yeah. Oh, her? Yeah, I just...
Here we go.
May Road Mini Monies.
That's one of those joke ones.
May Road Mini Monies.
Yeah, I just started going to AMC theaters because...
It's an ad.
what is that?
DanceNames.com.
What is going
I
on?
wonder how much...
I don't think this is going to be your most listened to episode.
I don't think we're breaking that 1K mark.
I'm just calling it now.
Let's get back on track. What are we drinking?
Were we even on track?
Let's get on
I'm
the
sorry,
track.
what track were we on?
Let's enter the track.
This is Golden Road Brewing's Mango Cart. Mango Wheat Ale. And it is a series inspired by the iconic fruit cart vendors of Los Angeles.
It's very good.
I like it a lot. It's only 4% too, so you never really get drunk.
Yeah, I do like that.
But we had an episode before this, which is why I'm like, well,
Something about it tastes kind of grassy. It's like mango and grass.
It tastes really similar to kombucha. And I don't like kombucha, but I like this.
Like normally, like lighter beers like this, I'm like, oh, it'd be like a good beer to drink after mowing the lawn. But this one, I feel like I'd be like,
did I mow the lawn in this?
inside of this can?
I can't taste the grassiness, and this does. This
I think it's
tastes
just
like
it's a very
there's
sharp
very
tropical
planty flavor to the side of like the mango flavor.
and this tastes like kombucha, but like something that's shaped like a kombucha bottle, and you read the label and it just says sparkling probiotic drink, and you're like, oh, this isn't kombucha. You're just kind of like, this is a lesser.
Man, this tastes like that wedding at the end of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this movie, huh?
Yeah. Let's do it. I don't have a lot of notes during the movie. I spent a lot of time just
Popcorn
typing about
struggle.
like what happened with this popcorn.
Why did I get free popcorn?
That's
Joe, give me
what they're talking about in season 3 of Serial.
Yeah. What happened to cereal?
It's coming back.
It used
is.
to be so what? Oh no, I mean just like breakfast cereal.
Oh.
But no,
What happened to Serial? That was 2 meals
we're
ago,
all on
Joe.
different. Yeah,
We're on different bits right now.
it's like a popcorn bit, a podcast bit, and a breakfast cereal bit, all happening at once.
Oh, I bit that popcorn.
Yes.
You know it.
Let's get on the IMDb description bit. Joe.
Okay. So here's the bit. This contemporary romantic comedy, based on a global bestseller, follows native New Yorker Rachel Chu to Singapore to meet her boyfriend's family.
This is a weird IMDb description.
That didn't
'cause, like,
encapsulate any of it.
well, and also it specifies the movie that it's talking about, whereas like the other one's like obviously you know what movie it's talking about. You're reading the IMDb description, but this one's like this contemporary romantic comedy is about.
Wait, which
Not that other
contemporary comedy?
This movie fits into a genre based on a book And here's one sentence.
You guys know books. Well, this is like a better version.
Well, this is like a book, but without
But your mind pictures move on the screen for you.
without text, but also with video and audio.
Wait, I found a crazy fact about the book.
Go. Get out. Go. Leave.
No,
just-
like a Batman. So the director of the movie, John Chu, in the book, he's said to be related to Rachel Chu, the character.
His by name he's referenced in the book.
Apparently.
All right, it makes a little more sense now because I listened to the director's Guild pod. Why am I forgetting the director's cut? The DGA podcast.
Okay.
And they had John Turtletaub, I think that's how you pronounce his name, interviewing John Chu, and he was saying that like all the members of his family like read the book and kept like being like, "You need to make this movie. You need to make this movie." It's a little less sincere now that I know that like he's referenced in the book. Like,
What a call out. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be funny if he made the movie like about like Rachel has a cool cousin named John.
I feel like that's all
and he's so hot.
I feel like that's all you need to do. Like,
Is that who the one character's? Well, no, because that's part of
No, he's not in the
Nick's
movie.
family. But there is a filmmaker in the movie.
Oh,
Right?
no.
that's somebody else.
Well, because
But that
that's
would be-
related to the guy,
The Nick, yeah.
Nick,
Right.
not.
It would be related to Constant Wu's character.
Yes.
But I feel like that's how you get like these big Hollywood types involved. Really, like, isn't
You
that
write them
why-
into the book version.
right? No, but isn't that like why Ryan Reynolds wanted to play Deadpool so badly? Is because they called him out by name in like the comics, and they were like, "Deadpool, he kind of looks like Ryan Reynolds."
Yeah.
Like they used that to describe, and like I feel
Wait,
like,
was this before X-Men Origins? Because I thought he was like, I want to play Deadpool, but like a not weird one where I have skin on my mouth.
right? Yeah, no. I think it was even before that. Yeah,
Oh,
but like
okay.
He was describing his face as Ryan Reynolds meets a Sharpay or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's all you need to, if you guys want to write some sort of book or graphic novel or comic and you want it to be adapted into a movie, all you have to do is just
But my name, Mike King, or Joe's name, Joseph Loman.
because we have that big
And
old
we'll make
Hollywood
a low-budget
pool.
$100
Yes,
movie. Probably 2 minutes long.
No, you just gotta call out a celebrity by name in the book.
He was sexy like Werner Herzog.
All right, let me get through these Mike notes. Crazy Rich Asians is based on Kevin Kwan's 2013 novel of the same name, which was followed by 2 sequels, China Rich Girlfriend and Rich People Problems. So you can bet your ass there's going to be 2 more of these movies coming out after the box office performance. It was directed by John M. Chu, who has previously directed... His filmography makes me laugh.
Step up to the streets.
Step Up to the Streets, Step Up 3D, Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, G.I. Joe, Retaliation, Justin Bieber's Believe, Gem and the Holograms, and Now You See Me Too. On that podcast I was listening to, he was sort of talking about how he kind of just got, like he fully believes in all those movies, but I feel like he's also still playing like the studio like politics system of like, he got pulled into just being this like studio director who probably does whatever the studio sort of wants. And I feel like this is the first time that he's been able to be like, okay, I've done like 8 movies for you guys. Let me make a movie that I really want to make. And
I heard he's going to direct Guardians 3 now.
Is he really?
No.
Although I do think he was really into Gem and the Holograms. That just didn't do well at all.
Right.
This was written by Peter Chiarelli and Adele Lim. Peter's previously written The Proposal and Now You See Me Too. And Adele has written various TV episodes for shows, including One Tree Hill, Private Practice, many others. And she's been a producer on many of those same shows as well for more episodes than she writes. The cast includes Constance Wu, Henry Golding, Michelle Yeoh, Gemma Chan, Lisa Liu, Awkwafina, Ken Jeong, Chris Peng, Jimmy O Yang, and Nico Santos, and many, many more. And then just
It's like
a little...
the Avengers for Asians.
They actually called it that in the director's cut.
Oh, really?
That's the tagline of Crazy Rich Asians.
Is it really?
It's ... It's like the Avengers, for Asians.
And it's a romantic comedy. 3 weeks before its United States and Canada release, Crazy Rich Asians was projected to gross 18 to 20 million during its 5-day opening weekend. By the week of its release, estimates had reached 26 to 30 million, with Fandango reporting pre-sale tickets were outpacing Girls Trip, which debuted to 31.2 million in July 2017. The film held special advance screenings on August 8th and made an estimated 450,000 to 500,000, selling out most of its 354 theaters. It then took in 5 million on its first day and 3.8 million on its second. It went on to gross 26.5 million in its opening weekend for a 5-day total of 35.2 million, finishing first at the box office. 38% of its audience was of Asian descent, which was the highest Asian makeup for a film in U.S. in the previous 3 years, besting The Foreigner's 18.4% in 2017. In its second weekend, the film made 24.8 million, a box office drop of just 6%, which Deadline Hollywood called unbelievable. The film continued to play well in its third weekend, making 22 million, a drop of just 10% from the previous week, and remaining in first. And then I think this week it was what? Did we see what the box office
we
estimates
just had
were
like
for this
the
week?
Friday numbers. So there's really no...
True.
I don't know. But yeah, I
would think at worst it's going to do like 11 to 12 this weekend. Like 50% is like a good early drop. It's now in its third weekend and it hasn't dropped below 25% yet.
I think this is its fourth weekend. Is
it?
it not? Yeah, it's been number one for 3 weeks in a row now, and this is this upcoming weekend, or the weekend that we're recording this is going to be the fourth weekend. But yeah, no, I kind of didn't realize what this film was going to be. Again, I don't remember what podcast I was listening to. I listened to so many film podcasts. But as we were packing up like our last recording session, our last like bundle of 3 films that we were recording, I was kind of just like, I was telling Mike, like as we were like the next morning after we reviewed, I was just kind of like, oh man, like somebody was telling a story about like how like this podcast host and like his wife were basically like buying out like a theater kind of for like, you know, just like come and watch this movie kind of, because it is like the first like major Hollywood studio picture since people kept saying like it's the first like
in 25 years or something, like a major release
to feature
like
a predominantly Asian or like Asian American cast or whatever. Which I was like, what came out that year? And then I looked it up, and it was 1993's Joy Luck Club, and I was like, oh, okay.
And I think it's also important to mention that it's like obviously there have been movies with like Asian people, but it also has not been like kind of just like, because this, I would describe this as kind of like a crowd pleaser of a movie, that it's like it has like a lot of these universal themes. Because I was looking it up, and one of the movies that they referenced was like the sequel to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm like, that I don't know if that really is the same category as like this kind of stuff.
But it is good. I don't know, that almost like kind of like, I don't know, it sparked something emotional inside me just because it was kind of like, Jesus, like these fucking people like aren't represented on screen. I know that's like Asian Americans or just Asians in general are something I know Mike and I go to a lot, like during Oscar season, where it's kind of like Oscar's so white or whatever, but it is kind of like, it's not just like African American people who are underrepresented. It's definitely like
you could count on like probably
a hand.
2 hands, maybe 1 hand, how many like Asians have been nominated, much less one in like all categories. Like very few. It's at the Oscars, sorely underrepresented.
And for and for this to be like the first time in 25 years, like that's crazy. Like, and then obviously that's why like a bunch of kind of like Asian Americans or people who believed in this movie were like buying out theaters. And I kind of thought that was going to, it was going to like drop off really hard after that. But again, it's done 3 weeks at number 1. So yeah, I'm super happy.
And I saw an article like right before I came over here that it's like now other studio executives are like scrambling to like include Asian people, and it's like, oh yeah, that's great. What do you say?
Well, that's like I was talking again in that same kind of conversation. There was like a really great variety piece on what is the director's name? Just
John M. Chu. I don't know if he uses the middle initial.
It says on his IMDb page, I think, John M. Chu. But I think he proposed this idea, or he was kind of like shopping it around, and Netflix was going to offer him a gross amount of money to like, dude, like, come do it here. We'll give you the whole trilogy, yada, yada, yada. We'll give you the works. We'll give you so much money. And he's like, sorry, like, I need to put this on a main stage.
Yeah.
I need people to like come out and see this in a theater and like normalize it, you know?
And I
like
think-
and he took that sacrifice and it paid off so much. Like, I think he could have made this movie even more extravagant than it was, and could have like had like a ton of pocket change, you know, like kind of pocket change. He could have had fucking millions of dollars in his bank account.
Yeah, because also this didn't like I was a little bit surprised to find out that the budget was only 30 million. Because
Yes,
I mean they
It
do
looks
so
very
much.
extravagant,
It looks
yes.
great. And also I was gonna bring up the whole Netflix thing because like I think Netflix TV is very good, but I think they're still not great with figuring out movies.
They're
like
not.
and when I was sitting in the theater, I was thinking about this, like, oh, this does feel like a special thing and a nice thing. Like, it's not like a couple weeks ago when my family and I sat down and watched Like Father on Netflix. Like, we already forgot everything that happened in it. And, like, it makes me think, like, oh, if Crazy Rich Asians was a Netflix thing, kind of what that would be like. And honestly, it would probably get buried by algorithms.
Because Netflix almost puts out more stuff than like movie theaters put out.
Oh,
Like, these
definitely,
days, you know,
yeah.
like movie theaters are on that like weekend cycle, but Netflix like every day it's just like, oh, here's this new comedy special, and here's like there's so many different categories of stuff, and it's all competing for your attention on Netflix.
I like talk about this with people. Like, remember 4 or 5 years ago when it was like, oh, once or twice a month there'd be a new Netflix original, and we would all be like, whoa, cool. Like the first season of like BoJack, of House of Cards, of Orange is the New Black, and now it's just half of the things that I see on Netflix are originals, and I'm just like, I don't give a crap about any of it. What is this Sugar Rush crap?
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot.
Magic for Humans is good though.
It does seem like Netflix is ahead of the curve. Like, we just watched, like, me and my girlfriend just watched All the Boys I Loved Before, or
Yeah.
whatever, which does have like an Asian lead and everything, and she's like fantastic in it, even though it's not a great movie in my opinion.
Well, you can listen to my review.
Oh, did you review it?
Oh, I'm going to record it right after
Oh,
this,
okay.
and it'll be out when this is out.
Oh, okay. Well, then go listen to that, and you might have different opinions than me.
I already do.
Oh, okay. See, I don't. Well, I can get like.
I thought it was a very pleasant movie, and I think it was good for Netflix.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Like, I would not have seen that in theaters.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, what are you doing here?
Right, yes, I know. But yeah, I don't know. It was okay. It was okay. But let's get into this movie though.
Again.
Yes, yeah.
Let's once again get into it.
Just one last thing from that director's cut, just talking about like the making of this movie, and how I feel like it's a little special in a way. Like, this kind of like just touched my heart from the podcast, but he was talking about John Chu, about how when like word got around that he was making this movie that like sort of in like Asian circles is already being like passed around the book. Ken Jeong reached out to him and invited him over for dinner, and this was before he'd even been cast in it. And it's our first camera dying.
Whoa!
And
Cool.
and he was basically just like, literally anything you need, I'm here to help you make this movie. He's like, if you want me to be in it, if you want me to stay away from the camera, if you need money, if you need like connections for anyone, he's like, whatever
awesome.
I need
Wow.
to do to make this movie get made and be what it needs to be. Like, Ken Jeong was just like down for the cause. I think that's pretty cool.
Like, I'll definitely read the books now. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll probably skip the first because I saw it.
I heard the books aren't that great. Like, they're kind of like more like laundry list of like designer labels, kind of, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, and it's kind of like it's kind
I
of
wish
like
there was a picture of this.
like it's also kind of like, I think one of my less favorite plot lines in this movie, like, I think like really my only complaint in this movie, and I'm gonna dive almost fucking into like spoiler territory, or should I hold that off?
That's fine. Who
Hold
cares?
off if you can.
Wait. Oh, okay.
Okay,
Wait,
no,
hold on.
no,
The movie's
I-
been out for a month.
I can see it. Yeah,
like
it'll be
35
out even longer after this. But Yeah, I'm just gonna fucking dive into it. Or you know what? Let me.
Can you just make a decision?
Okay. Yes. The plot line with Astrid and her husband.
Oh yeah.
Not spoiling anything, but it's a fucking waste of time in an already long movie, and I think it doesn't really fit, and it doesn't really.
And I didn't get the post-credit scene. Like, I got it, but I'm like, who the fuck's that guy?
Oh, I don't know what that is.
What?
I didn't say
even
for
know.
a post-credit scene.
Oh, it's like 3 seconds. It's Astrid looks over to see actor Harry Shum Jr., who you might remember from
I was looking
Glee.
this up. Book spoiler alert and movie spoiler alert.
I think
guess
the second book's supposed to be about her.
Well,
right?
in the book, there is
Oh.
that sort of like the Michael character is faking an affair because he wants to get away from Astrid because of just the money thing. There is no affair.
That's really interesting.
And then
I like
Astrid.
That's cool.
Astrid has sort of been relying on this other guy during the whole thing, and this guy likes her, I guess, but he cares about her so much that he helps her try to get back with Michael. So I guess she does get back with Michael at the end of the book.
Okay.
But they just completely cut that character out and they made the affair real in the movie. Either way, I mean, in a book, I guess it's fine because they probably
the affair
approach
was so
it.
weird and was like, why is this a part of it? But I like the idea because, like, if him faking it, that almost makes more sense for his character because he doesn't seem like a.
That kind of comes out of nowhere.
Because didn't they mention that he was like in the military for a while?
I don't remember
Something like that, and I feel like him talking about like,
okay,
look,
I
like
remember that now, yeah.
I kind of was trying to set you up to see how you would react because he has that whole speech in the limo to the wedding.
Yeah, I mean, it would have.
Spoiler, by the way.
I guess
There's a wedding.
I can see why that's in the book because it's kind of like this opposing view from like, you know, like this rich life really isn't for everyone, and not everyone wants it and wants to fit in here, and it can really sort of tear you up, and you might not want to be here, and it's almost like a foreboding thing for the Rachel character.
I was
to
almost
see that, but she has no interaction
Right.
with it. That whole storyline had no place in the actual movie because they set it up as like, oh, like Nick's like favorite cousin Astrid, and they talk once, and all they say is like, oh, like have you prepared her for the family, and
Right,
that's it. And then we follow Astrid for the rest of the movie, and I'm like, this has no bearing on the rest of this plot. It's so unnecessary, and like
Right.
I know the book has like 1 billion characters, and we like barely scratched the surface of all the characters in this, but there's already too many in the movie for this medium.
And Astrid is such a boring character. She's like a fucking like Gossip Girl character where she's
I thought
like
she was kinda
perfect.
cool, though.
And she's like perfectly dressed, and she's just kind of like, oh, little girl, like I like your, like she's got like a big heart, and
I love
and
the part with the little
Well,
girl.
yeah, but then like right after she's like, oh man, she's like not only like great, has like this great heart, she's got like the best fashion, and everybody loves her, and then she goes into like a room, and some guy's like, oh, these earrings, they're $1.2 million. But I want you to wear them for free, kind of like it's just kind of. It was like
oh
over
my
the top
god, that
for
made me
makeup.
so mad because it's so underutilized because they literally have this storyline where like
She's like hiding stuff around the apartment.
well, there's that, but she
also.
has that stuff, and like she like someone describes her as like the number one like fashion icon in the world. Like, you know, she's like worshipped just for her taste in fashion.
Right.
And then at one point, like we show her connecting with Rachel, and Rachel's having a hard time with the family. And then when Rachel needs a makeover, she doesn't go to Astrid, and she goes to like the
goes
Nico
to-
Santos character
yeah.
in Aquafina, and like that's a funny scene. But like, why are we watching her buy $1.2 million earrings
Nico
or get them
Santos
for free?
was so good.
He is
I
great,
love that.
but
That
like
was
then
great.
cut out the Astrid character, and like why is she gonna get those earrings if we're not gonna give those to Rachel? Like, why did she not show up at the wedding with those crazy earrings?
Yeah.
And the rest of the family be like, oh my god, we respect you now because you have this like crazy money to have these earrings somehow. Like,
That sounds superficial, though.
well, I mean,
Kind
there
of.
could have been more to it, but like they still did the whole makeover thing, and
Right.
they still had her show up, and everyone superficially react to how good she looked,
Right.
and how well dressed she. Like, why were the earrings not a part of that? Why did we need the earrings at all? You know, like it was like you could have done two things at once. You could have built the Astrid character up, like, oh, she's someone who cares about this
What
stuff,
did they
and
even
she's a
revisit
fashion
the
icon.
earrings with? Like she puts
I think
them
she
on at
she
the
wears them.
end,
Yeah,
kind
at the
of,
very
like-
end. I think when they go to the party
There was
to
no
celebrate.
arc with those.
Yeah, it meant nothing.
It was.
You,
I don't know.
You know what character I didn't like?
me.
Eddie Chang, played by Ronnie Chang from The Daily Show.
Which was he? They described him as the family guy.
Yeah, he's the one with three
He's
kids.
doing the
like
photo
one,
shoot.
the one funny bit I did like that all the family has like their good angles or whatever.
Yeah, optimal angles. Yeah,
But the whole thing, he's like
don't even
gross
remember.
and mean, but like not in like a way where it's like, oh, he's so over the top. He's like
there was no
su-
payoff.
Like, what's
with
your
that
number
either.
or something?
Well, it was like they did like these introductions for each of these characters that didn't actually mean anything. It's like they didn't do like an introduction for the
Like
characters.
the director guy, I don't
He
know
barely has
anything
any
about him.
lines. He doesn't interact with like he's not an integral part of it. Like
There weren't a lot of payoffs, and
They
that's like a
didn't
rom-com thing.
like
yeah.
they didn't really do like an introduction like fully for like his mom, but they did it for like all his siblings and Astrid, like a full cinematic. Like here's a character, here's a scene, here's all their character traits.
Right, cut
But
away.
there was no reason to like get to know them that well. Whereas like you have like Nick's like ex-girlfriend, like that might be
That
that might have been
weird.
useful. It might have been useful to have a scene like that for her. Like,
That
so when she
very-
shows up later, we're not confused.
That was
like,
upsetting when it turned out that she was like kind of meddling and stuff.
Oh yeah. Supposedly in the book, their history is that Nick had a threesome with her and some other girl, and I'm like, throw that in the movie. It's like that makes it even steamy. We want to see.
White
Pour
horny
more
guys
wine.
on the podcast now.
Threesome. Pour more wine on his shirt.
Well, just like if she's being bitchy, you'd think that'd be something that she would throw in there. Like, you're looking behind me. Oh my god.
Oh my god, it's
No,
done.
I just
Tune in next week for the Nun with Michael Dagler.
yeah.
Great
Where do I go
transition.
from the Nun? No, I mean just. I feel like we'd even like start to dip our toe into. I mean, like we went into specifics, but just general thoughts about this movie. I really, at first, I was a little disappointed. I mean, I guess maybe this was after I saw the movie, or like as the movie was developing. I was like, at first, I was like, ah, man, like this is just like a conventional romantic comedy or like rom-com or whatever. I was kind of really hoping they were gonna like unpack or deconstruct some tropes, you know. But as the movie went along, and I was kind of like watching the audience too, I was like, oh, it's not really, it's, and as I stared,
What do you think of the movie so far?
as I stared at everyone else and not the movie screen. Yeah.
What do you guys think of the movie?
How many fingers?
Why are you sitting on my lap? This is gonna be an anecdote on my podcast later. But like, I don't think it's supposed to be revolutionary in that way. Like, it's Cinderella kind of.
Yeah,
You know, like it's fish out of water. It's intentional. It's this kind of like revisited romantic comedy trope, and in a culture, you know, again, like it's been 25 years, like we're in a culture that we are not familiar with, but we kind of present this familiar trope so that we, the audience, can be like, I know rom-coms, you know, and like through that we can kind of navigate like this new culture without being like, oh, we're going to deconstruct the rom-com and we're going to present this new culture.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, I think movies like this, because I think the past couple years we've the film industry has definitely tried to have better and more representation. What I think is so great about this movie is that it shows you just enough about this kind of Singapore upper class lifestyle, and it shows you just enough that you kind of understand it, see how it's different, but it also makes you want to know more. Like my grandmother and my mother are both avid mahjong fans. Right. And so like watching that scene, I was like, I don't understand it, but I like know that it's this cool thing and I want to learn more, and like all these foods and stuff. So it definitely, I think it's cool to see just like like you said, just kind of a typical rom-com, but with kind of this different lens. And
like in the mahjong scene, it's a good example because they give you enough context where like, I mean, I've played mahjong before when I was like really young, but it was on a computer and it did all like the rules for me.
The
So
Windows,
I don't remember how to play mahjong.
the Windows
so, like,
98 mahjong was very different from what
play
that
mahjong
was.
with the gang of Cyber Chase.
like watching this scene, like I don't technically have any idea what's going on, but they use enough of the film language to be like, oh, this is like a big move where she's putting down this block, or this means a lot that she's not putting this block down.
And also, it was such a subtle callback to the beginning of the movie where Rachel's like, he sucks at poker. I don't know why, but in the back of my head, I'm like, is there going to be a thing where like she has to just play poker against somebody? And like that's going to be the big showdown at the wedding or something?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, again, even though I played Mahjong on Windows 98 and it was like one player and it looked nothing like that. It was kind of like a pyramid of Mahjong like tiles.
Yeah.
What game was that?
Is that a Rummy Cube?
Oh, maybe that's what that was. Maybe it wasn't Mahjong at all. But anyway, again, yes, I took the cues. Like I understood.
Guys, I get it.
Like, I knew.
Well, it's like watching poker if you have no idea how to play poker, like.
Right.
But through the movie,
it's
the way it's presented, you know
Right.
What is a good move
I know
that's happening, or a big thing that's happening, or whatnot.
I understood that Rachel put down the tile for the mom to win, and that Rachel actually had the hand to win, kind of. And that was very representative of obviously everything that was going on through the dialogue and the plot and everything. And it was so much in like the fact that I can understand so much of that. I thought that was like a really great scene, unlike the fucking Sabat scene in Solo, a Star Wars story, where they have this whole Sabat game that is like space poker.
Okay, I thought you were badly mispronouncing Shabbat, and I'm like, what movie are you talking
No. In Solo, like Han Solo goes
yeah.
to like a space bar kind of, and he's playing against Lando. But anyway, that scene is so stupid because you don't understand. There's no like rules. It's kind of vaguely like poker, but like the only thing that you gather from that scene is just kind of like, I guess he's good at card games that he's never played before. Like it's just so dumb and stupidly cut and horribly written, kind of. And it's refreshing to see something like this, like where it's.
And like Ross said, it is a nice callback to that first scene, because as much as I don't like that first scene on its own, mainly just because of the way it's shot, because she's like in a classroom, but they have like this cinematic lighting where it's just like a spotlight on them.
Yeah, you know how
and
like
then someone just randomly turns the lights
yeah, it's
off.
like you know how professors are great at operating all technology in a classroom
while teaching. Like, those kids don't need the light to take notes and shit.
Hey.
They have like a Tony Robbins like headset on. They're like fade like beat. Music cue.
But in that first scene,
More fog.
the whole idea is like, oh, he lost because like he was scared of losing, and like when you're playing a game of chance,
instead of trying to win, so he was trying not to lose.
he was focusing on what he could lose, and that's the whole idea of the end is like, she could have won, but she was also willing to lose in order to win, and it was a nice callback.
But yeah, it was for the first. Geez, I mean, just going back to the kind of familiar beats of a rom-com, but being introduced to a new culture, kind of, some of those cues too are like these kind of Chinese covers of popular American songs that are in rom-coms. Those are really great. And like, again, it's like me following the Mahjong scene, or like a lot of the other stuff. It's like for the first time as like a white American male, at like my local movie theater, like, I had to use context clues. Like, like it was like crazy. Like I was just kind of like, this not my culture. Like,
John Chu was talking about how the movie ends with the Asian cover of Yellow by Coldplay.
Yeah. Did you see his letter?
Very intentional. I didn't read the letter, but he talked about it on the podcast where...
Dear Coldplay, thanks for letting me use your song. Love, John.
They requested it, and first Coldplay was like, nah, you can't use that. And then he talked about how... he saw that Greta Gerwig wrote a letter to Justin Timberlake for Lady Bird asking to use Crimea River or whatever movie song was used. So he wrote like a very personal letter to Coldplay being like, reconsider, like, can we use the song? And then they're like, okay, yeah, sure.
Right. He was like, this is...
I just want to know why they said no at first.
Well, I can kind of understand that. Like, they don't really... To be like, hey, I'm making a movie, like an all-Asian cast, and I want to use your song, Yellow Coldplay. And Coldplay's PR
the song is famously called Yellow Coldplay.
Yeah, and Coldplay's PR has to be like,
you're saying they thought it would be a bad...
Yeah, like, is this a
bad
trap?
Optics.
Like, like, kind of, yeah.
I guess maybe you need John Chu to be like, no, we're trying to own it. And
right. We're where John Cho, I was reading that letter, and he's kind of like, this, like, yellow, the color, has been this, like, derogatory term used toward me my whole life and everything. But again, your music, it kind of presents it as this very positive, romantic kind of color and everything. And I would love to, again, like, re-own that kind of...
See, I was thinking like it was kind of just like all those stories that you hear of artists rejecting Weird Al parodies at first, because it's usually like the record label's like you're not making a song that makes fun of Lady Gaga, and then Lady Gaga is like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you guys see the ad during
A Star Is Born?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's an Oscar push movie.
Yeah.
It's Bradley
She's
Cooper's,
like, I
Bradley
don't
Cooper's
sing.
directing it. And
People think I'm not pretty. And he's like, I think y'all are pretty.
I think you're pretty.
He's like, I'm singing a song.
wanted to see you again.
Yeah.
Turn around. Just want to get another look at you.
That's like a really well cut trailer.
It shows the entire movie, though.
Yeah, no, but there's definitely like kind of this.
There's definitely an arc after they are in happy times.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, he's going to die.
Okay.
He's going to drink himself to death.
He's definitely going to die.
He's opening a bottle of liquor in the back of the limousine. He's going to drink himself to death.
Yeah, it looks very crazy hard.
He's like, this bottle is tougher than a rootin' tooth.
Bradley's like, I want to do Crazy Heart too.
This is my only friend.
But that's like a really...
I love you, little bottle.
I don't know whether I don't like Lady Gaga as much as the movie wants me to, or like I think like that trailer's incredibly like climactic, like especially when she starts singing, but she's not really singing words yet, and then like soon as like it goes to words, I'm just kind of like...
I think it's the latter. I think she...
When she's like...
is,
she's like... Ah! And I was like, yeah, baby! And then she's like...
I'm kind of down for it. I don't know if... I mean, it'll depend on how the...
Unless I'm on that episode, I'm probably not going to see it.
How the, like, Oscar perception of it plays out. Like, if this is, like, favorited to win something, I might be like, okay. But
this is why we need the most popular movie
Exactly.
category.
but just from, like, a fun perspective, like, it kind of seems like Broadway country. Like, there's definitely, like, a little bit of, like, modern Broadway, like into the construction of like the song that they're singing at the end. They're not singing in like traditional country like harmonies at the end. So it sounds good, but it's in like the country vein kind of. And I'm interested to see what Bradley Cooper can do as a director. And
Bradley Cooper
Point the camera over there.
Bradley Cooper just finished like binging Nashville. He's like, all right. I got an idea.
Then he went to Dollywood and he was like, yeah. Apparently, I don't know if this is true because it's not on his IMDb anywhere, but like Bradley Cooper's from the Philly area.
Yeah.
And when I went to my high school, they said like, oh, Bradley Cooper went here, but then he transferred and graduated from a different school. I'm like, I guess that's true.
It could happen.
Yeah. Because like, why would you lie about, this guy went to a better school?
Right, yeah. That is weird.
So, Bradley, if you're listening and you went to Plymouth White Marsh High School, let us know.
Hey, Bradley, can you clear something up for me?
Bradley, I know you're a Big Finger fan.
Damn, I was listening to the Crazy Rich Asians episode of How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up the Podcast, which roughly averages like 100 listens per episode. But anyway, hey, Ross, Weisman of Kid Flix Podcast. I actually did. I went there for like a good...
like how he talks in his A Star Is Born.
Well, his method acting.
I went there for like roughly a week, and then I got accepted, just on a late audition, and it was a really funny story.
Wait, is that how you think I got into my public high school?
Well, wait. Did he go to like some performing arts?
Well, he graduated from Germantown Academy.
What is that?
The school that always beat us at the high school Tony Awards.
They're our rivals.
Anyone want another beer?
Oh, I'm good. I'm already kind of starting to see sideways after this one, Bruce. I'm still very annoyed that I didn't get a drink during Crazy Rich Asians. I was very excited.
At the bar?
Yeah, because, I had low expectations because I got a drink once from a movie tavern. It was so bad. I got a mojito. And it was no bueno.
I don't know if I've had I think I just had a beer the last time we were at like a AMC like dine-in, but the food was really good there. I had like lobster pizza at one of the and I was like, that sounds funny, and it was
From
like
the people who brought you popcorn bring you lobster pizza.
Who brought you terrible popcorn? Comes lobster pizza.
from the makers of half-cold mozzarella sticks.
My mom
Lobster pizza.
one time was like, "Oh, I love the hot dogs." I love the hot dogs here. They're so good.
Honey, can you drive me to AMC so I can get a hot dog?
We're gonna barbecue some hamburgers, then we're gonna go get some hot dogs that have been on a roller for 3 hours.
Like basically 7-Eleven hot dogs.
They have flatbreads, and I'm like, I don't want that.
No, thank you.
Like it's a weird thing because I feel like movie theaters, they're like, okay, people aren't coming to the theaters. It's because we don't have enough full dinners. Not like,
I mean, if I had a dine-in around me, I'd probably be going to that more often.
Man, I was just talking about this.
Even just for the beer. Like, just being able to have one beer.
like-
Oh, no,
it
yeah.
would make some of the movies we have to see for this podcast
Oh no, I
so much more bearable.
I was like housing a beer during the Nun. Like, just like it was.
because you were like, they say not to drink in Catholicism, but you should have had red wine. That would have been funny.
That would have been
the
funny.
body
Yes.
of the blood of Christ.
Looking around to everybody, hey guys, did you see this? See what I'm drinking here?
Hey guys, I'm doing a little bit here. If you could just, if
If I
everybody
could have
could
the
just,
theater's attention for a minute.
can you stop the trailer? So this is a red wine, and we're watching a movie called The Nun, right? I'm sorry, I've never done this before. I had to sit down. Okay, enjoy your movie.
And then the one guy's like, this seems like none of our business. And then everybody goes, he should run the movie theater.
They carry him out on his shoulders, like on their shoulders.
He just owns the movie theater after that.
Man, I'm hemorrhaging money. I guess we should sell full dinners. And it all comes full circle. Oh, my God.
All right, let's talk about this actual movie.
I was about to ask,
Turns out saying a funny comment in public doesn't
that's good.
isn't related to movie.
I was about to get it more off track by talking more about movie theater food. Guys, I haven't had those pretzel nachos in years.
It was a really popular choice in like middle school when you're like, I got mom's $20 bill. Let me get Sour Patch Kids, a movie ticket, and some pretzel nachos.
Yeah, but now it's like, oh man, I got $20. I guess I can get
Do I want a
half
drink
a
or
movie
a popcorn?
ticket. I
It's
just
like, I shouldn't be seeing this movie. I should be paying rent.
I just quit my job at Whole Foods, and fucking everybody would be like, man, you come in for one thing and I got like 12 things. Like this like whole paycheck.
Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah. Crazy Rich Asians, I probably love shopping at Whole Foods.
Ross is trying out some new bits here on the How Many Fingers podcast.
Is the sequel going to be called Crazier, Richer, Asianizer?
Man, I hope so.
It's going to be called China Rich Girlfriend. That's literally the name.
Sounds like a bad translation, kind of. It sounds like something Google Translate would be like, China Rich. Man, dude, my impression of this text-to-speech has been getting progressively worse over the course of this episode.
China Rich Girlfriend, that means she has a lot of plates?
China. She's got a huge China cabinet. Have you met my China Rich girlfriend?
You gonna marry her? She doesn't have porcelain like we do.
Is she wealthy? She's China Rich.
And then the third movie is like unopened comic books girlfriend. She's got Action Comics 1.
Mickey Mantle rookie card.
Oh, man.
All right.
I should have got a bigger laugh for she's China Rich.
You want to try,
As in,
you wanna
she's
try it again?
kind of rich?
In kind, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Let us know what you thought in the
Cross
comments.
that joke up. Because nobody likes it!
I was too busy laughing at my own jokes like usual. Guys, listen to my podcast. That's the headline of it.
Hi, welcome to podcast. We're three white guys laughing at our own jokes.
I keep wanting to tweet this, but it's what I am doing with my podcast. It's like, so I'm like a guy and like, ugh, I want to do a podcast. I don't know, like movies? People like movies.
I think I got a lot to say about movies. You know, most people walk out of a movie and they're like, I don't know if I like that. I'm like, I did like that, or I didn't like that. And I think I got a lot to offer.
I'm the Metacritic. So, Crazy Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians.
I almost say Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I know that's not what we're talking about. Good show.
Why has nobody said craisins yet? Like C-R Asians. Craisins.
I don't know.
Well, because that's one word, and we're saying 2 words.
I'm just saying, an abbreviated...
Guys, we need to talk about this.
Could be offensive.
We need to talk about this. Guys, this is important.
No, I'm shortening words. But,
We need to talk about this, guys. At Rachel and Nick's engagement party, why are there synchronized swimmers? That's weird.
It's weird that he planned that in advance when he's really only had like a day to propose to her.
He's like, oh, we're gonna get synchronized swimmers, yeah?
Wait, this is me leaving.
Well, I think
this is me leaving the airplane. Okay, she said, yeah, you gotta fucking lock down this.
Nick, who are you talking to?
Synchronized little girls swimmers.
Synchronized.
No, they were adults.
They were. They all looked like they were like high schoolers or middle schoolers or something.
I feel like there was supposed to be a passage of time there that was longer than like a day. Because you don't usually do your engagement party the next day.
Oh, I could have sworn there's a
I
line
think him
in there.
engaging
Man, I can't
with
believe
her.
that earlier today you engaged her.
But there was something where she was like, I guess I'll stay an extra day, implying that they'll celebrate there, but then that they'll go back to their regular lives in New York, like the day after
I
or
missed
something.
that.
Yeah.
So, like, when they went to that gigantic party on the roof of that building, listen, I know I don't like the opening scene of this movie where like they can't get a reservation at the hotel, so they buy the hotel.
I don't like it because I think it exposes a little bit of a flaw in this movie, and that like it, or at least it sets the movie up like it's going to be about deconstructing sort of like views about Asians, and then it just doesn't go there. Like, I mean, it sets it up like, oh, like you don't expect like Asians to be rich or whatever, like because that's what the whole theme of that first scene is. But then we just kind of don't like go into that at all.
I don't know. I think
It's
it
funny,
kind of adds on
but-
because I think the whole movie is just like, I mean, we're talking about a movie that this is the first majority or all Asian cast in 25 years, and like when you think of like an Asian movie, like I mentioned it earlier, and like I feel bad to admit that it probably would be something like Crouching Tiger or like a martial arts movie. So I think like the whole movie as a whole is kind of going off of that theory or whatever. I mean, and yeah, it's a little like
But
dumb
then
where
it's kind
like,
of like
we
it's like kind
own
of like
this
a
now.
meta scene almost, you know?
Also, Nick Young is like a dick as a little kid. He's like tracking his mud all over the fucking floor.
Why
He
don't they
seems
have?
like
I mean, why
real-
don't they have a proper place to wipe?
No, I think he's just being like a dick little kid, where you're just kind of like, let me leave a trail of mud in a circle, kind of. And
Yeah, they wouldn't really be happy about that at a Holiday Inn either.
no, yeah, like, oh, we just came in out of the rain. Do you mind if my son intentionally spreads mud all over your floor?
Oh, speaking of hotels,
So I thought there was gonna kind of be something like that too. I don't know. It's just a weird scene.
So 2 things. First of all, speaking of hotels, I was driving up here and a school bus got stuck like in the underpass, like in front of a hotel, like, you know, like where we just drive up, drop off your bags and stuff. There's just a school bus stuck, and people are like, oh, I guess the bus lives here now. And then number 2, one of my favorite IMDb facts about this movie is that they're talking about the hotel at the end, and they're like, that's a real place. And I'm like, yeah.
They didn't build that whole hotel.
They also talked about how the author...
That wasn't in the budget. Like building that hotel or just 3D animating it.
Like
We filmed on there.
The top IMDb fact was like the author of the book was a draft dodger.
Relevant information. Thank you, IMDb. All right.
Guy's like, damn it! My past always follows me.
God, we haven't talked about this movie at all.
Yeah, we did. I mean, it's winning awards. Like Henry Golding won the Hot Guy Award at the second Shout Awards.
Yo, can we talk about that? That like this is really the first movie that presents
It's
like
the first movie.
Can we talk about like this is movies seem like they're gonna be a good thing, right?
Yeah,
This
I mean,
was
I
good.
like that last one about the train.
I mean, it's like pictures, but there's audio and it's moving and everything.
I'm like, where's the orchestra?
Right. It's like, okay, picture theater,
Okay.
but it's previously happened, and okay. Anyway, I'm just gonna get back into my point.
The fans are like, come on, finish your sentence.
Finish the fucking bitch. No, this is the first movie, at least I feel like I've seen. I can't really think of it that have presented kind of like an Asian male as like attractive or like hot, kind of like. This is the first, like, I was like, damn, Henry Golden, he hot. Or like the Astrid's husband is kind of introduced as a torso getting out of the shower. I was like, okay, like, you know, like these are like hot Asian guys, and I feel like we've never seen that in movies ever.
Oh yeah, I mean Henry Golding's gonna be in like everything. From now
This
on.
was his first movie.
What?
Well,
Really?
I think he was a host of like a game show or something like that.
Okay.
So
But still,
the host of the show Who Wants to Star in Crazy Rich Asians.
and he won.
So he's like, bollocks.
he was the host. He's not supposed to.
That's like that's like the Shrek. That's like
The Bachelor, but the host opens up the envelope. He's like,
I guess I'm in love with me.
"Oh my god, it's me."
Well, it's kind of like at the end of the Shrek 2 bonus feature, Far Far Away Idol, where Simon Cowell is just like, "I'm the winner, everybody," and then he sings some dumb song.
I thought this movie was going to have something smarter to say about economics and wealth and something like that, because like I feel like they're sort of setting it up for that, because like he's trying to distance himself from his family, and like there's obviously this contrast which I thought could have been even bigger, like she's like an NYU professor, like she's probably not having too much trouble paying her bills, like you know, she's got this huge like auditorium just to teach in with like
AV
lighting
control
effects for
over, yeah.
every class that she does. And I thought it just kind of missed an opportunity to just have some kind of message about wealth. Like I thought there would be something about the money not mattering.
Like I think there are, like I just think it was all kind of like in the background, like the whole thing with the affair just kind of was there, and with the affair the whole thing about how it's like you're so obsessed with your image that you're not doing anything. I think there were like little bits and pieces, and then when the grandma is like, "Fuck you, Rachel,"
Right? Yeah. I thought there was some sort of. At first, I was like, I feel like there's kind of like a fetishization of like wealth in this movie, and I was like, this is kind of like a weird time for that to be happening.
Yeah, I felt very uncomfortable with a lot of that.
But I don't know. I kind of thought that was just like an entry point, you know? Like I thought that was kind
of like how Wolf of Wall Street, all the ads were like, he's throwing a midget.
Right, yeah. But that's exactly. It's window dressing, essentially. And I think it's also just like, look at any other rom-com. Like it's like practically a trope where it's kind of like, you know, like the wedding and like Wedding Crashers or whatever. It's kind of like, or Jesus, these people, you know, like,
I mean, like a lot of comedy movies resort to they have unlimited money so that we can do whatever sort of hijinks we want to get into.
It was also,
but I thought they had a good opportunity for it in this movie, where like when they go to Singapore the first night, they hang out with like the newly or the fiance, the engaged couple, Nick's friend. And,
why does she never wear glasses again?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like they present them as
she
like
was a different person.
They present them as like very down to earth,
right,
and like chill. And it's I think what they're trying to do is like ease her in. Right. The filmmakers are trying to ease her into Singapore and you know Nick's lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Nick,
but then
Henry's the actor.
And it all
Nick
gets sidetracked at the end when we find out about Rachel's parents.
You
know, just because like at the very end, how it's like. The private investigator did the investigation and found out that Rachel's mom, her dad didn't
die.
Rachel's dad didn't die. She had an affair with Rachel's father and then moved to China.
Right.
Or sorry, moved to America because Rachel's mom's husband was like abusive and stuff. And then I think in general it's just very hard to adapt a book into a movie because like you want to include all these things that make the characters who they are, but at the same time like I'm sure the parent thing kind of played bigger. But like for so much of the movie, you kind of forget that the family is iffy on her. Because like the mom seems pretty welcoming, if not a little cold. The grandmother seems so loving, and you kind of just forget about her being an outsider. You think that this is like, oh, I'm experiencing a different aspect of a culture that I thought I knew or something.
Yeah, it is that sort of like weird superficialness where they're nice on the surface, but they're harboring whatever feelings.
I love that the grandmom turns out to be like a fucking bitch.
I should have
I was so into that.
I should have called it.
Because that's such like that's kind of like a deviation from like a trope where it's kind of like the mother
The grandmother talks sense.
Right, yeah.
You did kind of think that the grandmother was going to be the one that was like, oh, but she's so sweet. Like, it doesn't matter that
right,
she's
yeah.
not.
Oh, as long as like my,
Henry's happy, or Nick is
my
happy.
Nick
Well,
is my Nick is
because they
happy
plant
kind
that
of,
like Nick lived with the grandmother because
Yes.
the mother was, I don't know, doing something.
But really, it's the mother who has more in common with her. I also really like that.
we never saw his dad, Nick's dad.
He's just away on business the whole time
Oh no, yeah.
because he knows what's important.
I was about to say the
Supposedly in the book, the mom is not in it for most of it. She doesn't show up until like the very end. Yeah. Like she's just kind of like this like figure that's like talked about and feared throughout the book, and then she finally shows up.
I kind of like that men are kind of like peripheral in this movie. Like even Nick to some extent is just kind of like, well, I don't really fucking know what's going on with him. You know, it's a lot of Rachel. It's a lot of the mom.
Rachel.
I've been wanting to do that this entire time, and I've been like, I can't think of an appropriate moment.
But I really do. I was listening to like a small interview on NPR, I think with like the mom or something, and I like that she's like kind of like not trying to be this fucking like mustache twirling like bad guy kind of like she's just literally playing like what's culturally like appropriate, like what's
you understand
happening.
where you're coming
Yes,
from. Like you hate that she's being that way, but it's like, I mean, in the end,
she makes
like
like
they
a
do
really
have this whole empire.
logical argument where she's like, oh, isn't that
Supposedly in the book, they're so secretive that like it's not like they're they're not like the Kardashians of China. Most people don't know they exist because they're so private and protected of their image
Which that's a good change
like
that they
in
made for the
background.
movie.
Yeah, it plays better visually, but it
Plays better
sort of
here
also helps
in
you
America.
understand their choices better, I think, coming from that.
But it's almost
era
like
of the book.
it's interesting seeing puppet masters when they are so public already, and people don't really catch on to it.
The point I was trying to make about the sort of like the pacing of it, like I thought you could have had, like, rather than opening on like, oh, let's go to Singapore and we're having like a really good time with like these the wedding couple who are like sort of acting different than they do later in the movie. Like,
yeah,
'cause,
we
like,
never
'cause
see that couple again.
Well,
Like,
the bride is the one that's at the
until she's
bachelor-
walking around in that water at the wedding.
Oh yeah,
I cried
yeah.
during that BT Dubs.
But
That's a fucking beautiful wedding scene.
Yeah,
I got
my
some-
brother's
I got
getting
some
married
complaints
in a
about that.
couple weeks, and I just got so overwhelmed at the
I
beauty
get
of
Well,
it.
like that bride, like she's at the bachelorette party, obviously, and like so you go from her like in like glasses and like really dressed down, and they're just kind of like slumming it on like the Singapore,
they're
like
yelling.
yeah. But then they go to like
They're in a
the
convertible
bachelor
Jeep. It feels very like
at the bachelorette party, or when
no,
they're
no.
yeah,
Like when they're like they're like, let's go in this kind of like convertible Jeep and go
Yeah.
to like some like food vendor. And
yeah.
like,
But then
yeah.
on the bachelorette party, it's like they like rented this island, and she's like shopping spree. I'm like, is this the same character?
Right.
And
So, like,
now we're gonna vandalize Rachel's room. Oh shit!
don't tell her.
We're just kidding, Rachel.
Did Rachel hear that?
So like that's a weird like transition there that kind of like throws me off. But like then you have the scene later on where like when Nick is sort of apologizing for that, and he's like, we can do whatever you want tomorrow. Like, is that not an opportunity for like the two of them to go off alone together? And then like he's like, you know what, Singapore is not all just like, you know, these crazy glitz and fashion and all that.
They're
like,
not all these crazy
there's
rich
like,
Asians.
like, you know, like there is like a sort of like a poorer, I don't know what the better word for that is, but like a more
like middle class.
relatable side
'Cause you
to
don't even see
Singapore. It's
that
not
with-
just this whole alienating thing that you're being stuck in.
Like, I thought that was going to be kind of Aquafina's whole thing, that she was like kind of the average person, but then
she's got like a rich house. Too.
yeah.
Yeah, she's got like that was a little confusing.
I also did not like her brother.
Oh, I loved that's like such a, I don't know, I loved that kind of.
I kind of liked him
for
more
a
at the end.
rom-com character. Like,
Yeah, I liked
was
him
into
more at the
that.
end, but I was just like,
Aquafina herself is a little strange.
she grew on me. The first scene, I was like, why is she just being like, "Hey, dog," or whatever? But then at the end, I was like, oh, she's fun.
She's funny, but I
Hey, dog, what's up?
After the party at the grandma's house, I was like, okay, I like this character now.
No, she's very talented and funny, but there's something about her presentation that, like, I don't know if I'm just letting like criticism from Twitter like seep in too deep, but there's something about it that's like borrowing from like Afro-American culture, and is it really her place to do that? It's a strange thing.
See, I thought this.
It's similar to like the Fresh Off the Boat, the main character in that is kind of like, oh, I listen to Biggie and Tupac and stuff like that. And I know that show is like an autobiography, so that might be exactly what that, you know.
I've watched 2 episodes, so I'm an expert on it.
But
and I'm gonna school you.
Yeah. See, I don't like Aquafina, and I didn't
In
like.
I
this, or-
prefer Dasani.
No, but I gulp. He shit on the theater.
Is someone gonna reference Poland Spring next?
But I didn't like her when she showed up in HQ trivia. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't like her.
She showed up in HQ.
Yeah.
So her and Robert De Niro have something in common.
Right. To promote Ocean's 8. Is that what it was? Yeah, Ocean's
that
8.
makes sense.
And then I didn't like her in Ocean's 8 because all of those characters were underdeveloped, and they were just like, Aquafina, do your shtick here, you know? And then here we have an actual character to work with, and I actually really loved her in this movie. This was like, she was funny. I thought she was appropriate just because she's like the person who, you know, went to college in America and has kind of like returned. So like that kind of like,
So you're saying she's just kind of ripping off American culture and bringing
yes,
that back?
yeah, bringing it back.
Maybe. I mean,
I think also
I don't know if
Singapore
that
is a
much
more,
thought even went
like-
into it. It seems like, I think whenever she has a line, she just thinks of the funniest way she can say it. And it is effective. She's hilarious every time she says something. But sometimes she'll word it in a way where you're like, that's a little bit of like verbal blackface going on there.
See,
Like, I don't know
def-
if you want to word it that way.
I definitely thought about that in the trailer and was actively annoyed by her in the trailer, and I was like, is this going to be
But it's not how
is
she
this
does the
gonna
whole
be
movie. She delivers every line sort of differently, and it's she's
really?
clearly going for just whatever is the funniest way to word
at that
something.
time.
You know,
Right, yeah.
I mean, I
So
also
she's like pulling from a whole bunch of different wells there.
I also just, I mean, I know people like her character, and it, like I don't think, I think it's more just kind of a general, like, this is how people talk. Like, I kind of like how people talk so much more like the internet, like when people are like, that's a doggo, and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
I think that's more of
Pupper
it.
so sad. I'm like, okay.
I'm
well,
like,
just
now Ross,
doing me
now
a
Joe's
frighten.
so sad.
dude, your sister just died.
Poop emoji.
Yeah.
Crying, laughing emoji. Is that right?
Just focus on the crying part.
Let's deal with the crying part now, and we'll explore the laughing part later.
I remember that's how I when my grandfather died. My brother and I we entertained ourselves at the cemetery by thinking of like funny materials to make like headstones out of. And we were like, what if there was like a Lego one? Or like, what if there was one that had like Wi-Fi? It definitely brought a little light to the day. Just
It
like
was
this
a
movie.
crying, laughing emoji.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised by her in this movie. You know, the future will decide what happens next.
Yeah, no, I mean, she's very
it will
funny.
for everything.
Her and the Nico Santos character, I think, are kind of a good pairing too. I think they play
Yeah,
well off each
yeah. When
other
they got
really
together, I
well.
was like, "This
Oh,
is
yes.
perfect."
Yeah.
I did like the brother character, the Ken Jeong character. I wasn't
I guess I just kind of wish
crazy
that the
about.
rest of the family would react to how creepy what he's doing is. Like,
Yeah.
It's funny, like, I think him playing with Ken Jeong is kind of funny because he's kind of like the clueless dad who's like, yeah, like, this is the one you want to be like getting
Also,
with.
it's funny when he was like, "Their kid's starving in America," and I was like, "That's funny."
He's like, she's got a real backside, unlike those K-pop sluts. That was good. But yeah, I don't know. Just to, I mean, yeah. I think it sounds like you have a piece to say about the wedding. I really enjoyed the wedding scene. I think it was like visually beautiful, like the fucking like water like flowing down the aisle.
Yeah,
and
but it
everything.
felt so.
I was
like,
iffy until the water came. Like when the actual ceremony started, I was like, "This is good." But when it was like, "Why is there all this grass and stuff around?"
I think it was missing. Like I think maybe they're trying to get something across in that wedding scene, and it was missing like a one or two more visual cues. Because like on the surface, it's like, okay, like these two characters that we haven't really explored are getting married. Like I'm not gonna fucking cry about like two characters that I don't care about getting married.
Yourself. Well, no, but then it became
It's
a thing with
visually
Nick
very
and-
beautiful,
but
and
then-
they have the cover of and I can't help falling, the Elvis song, or I think he's
Yeah.
covering someone else when he does it.
But then it becomes
But it
about
kind-
like Nick and
becomes about
Rachel.
Nick
They're
and
looking
Rachel,
at each
though,
other,
when
and
they're,
then the
like,
mom is
looking at
like,
each
"Oh, I
other.
get it."
That's like the more emotional like core of that movie. Or
That's what I'm
the
saying.
core
I
of
think
that
I think it's
scene, yeah.
missing like another visual cue or two, because like the big cinematic
They're crying,
moment-
looking at each other, Mike.
but it seems like they're crying in the way that the audience might be crying, of just like, it's a beautiful
Oh,
wedding.
I
And, like,
didn't see that
I
at
needed
all.
one or two more cues to
Okay.
be like part of the problem is that these are like perfect characters. Like Nick doesn't have any flaws. He's fucking like god of a human being. He's gorgeous and he doesn't really do anything wrong. So like I needed something for like
Well, you hit
that wedding to be them realizing something that they weren't realizing before. And what is it? Like, you know, like for them to just look at each other
Packed
and
the
then
wrong
start
shoes.
You know what I mean? Like you know, like there wasn't any real conflict between them. It was between her and the family.
Right.
So for her to look at him and be like, "Oh, I do really love him," like, well, no shit, you do. Like,
Well, I think
you
it was
had no
more just
reason
her
not to
being
love him
like,
before.
I'm willing to put up with all, because the whole movie everybody's like, I don't think she can deal with this like day in and day out of people staring at her and blah blah blah. But she's talking to that princess, or who is she talking to?
I think she was a princess.
Somebody important.
Yeah,
Yes.
some princess or some lady with a really cool dress. And I think like her talking to her and then seeing Nick, she's like, you know what, like,
and then Nick
these people
observing her with his the guy who's
like,
about to get married.
Nice, eh?
Oh, nice.
Just like me pecs.
It's just it's a little shallow. It's missing
Sure.
something to get me to that moment there, because it felt like manufactured. It felt like, you know, like the water's flowing and everything looks really pretty, and I'm like, I'm sure that would be cool if I knew these people, but I don't, and I'm not
Right.
feeling what these characters are supposed to be feeling in that
Maybe
scene.
there were just enough cues to get me there, to get me to.
Again, it's
to get me
it's
to Tear Town.
It's superficially very beautiful. It's a beautiful cover, and
Right.
there's beautiful visuals going on. If I was at that for a real wedding, I'd be bawling my fucking eyes out.
You know what else got me? The fucking just the end, kind of when he was coming onto the airplane. I was kind of like, here we go, the typical fucking rom-com.
The lady behind him.
Yeah, and
That I liked. Yeah.
And they do, and this is where they do kind of like subvert like the trope or whatever, or just do something more intelligent than you're expecting to. But it was just kind of like, you know, obviously I'm invested in this movie and I want them to be together, but, you know, not under the circumstances of awkward airplane proposal. And there's been another proposal before that, kind of, and that kind of makes it like a little more like damaged, which I like. And then when he shows the ring, like I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
like that's like such like
He killed his mom.
he fucking murdered her to get that ring.
It was nice. It was smart. It was smart because something happened
Nick, what's
off
in the
screen.
dumpling?
And
Right.
we understood
It
exactly.
was a
what happened.
nonverbal cue that was his mom's
It told us.
acceptance.
It told us about him, and it told us more about his mom. It's more about like his mom was willing to be
Right.
like, okay, you can.
But
have
yeah,
this.
this movie, that's the thing. To kind of, if I can like revisit, yeah, I mean, maybe that like wedding scene is just them kind of recognizing their love, because I don't think this movie, you know, they're in New York and they're fucking sharing a pastry and they're kind of doing bits with each other and everything's perfect, you know, like he might be the one kind of, but then, you know, you really bring it to like this other environment and it really tests the relationship and it becomes more about kind of like, I think this movie is about Rachel and the mother, kind of. You know? Like it's them battling it out, whatever. And again, like I said, male characters are kind of peripheral in this. But yeah, again, it's about what happens off screen. And then I also really like that the last scene, It's not like Rachel and the mom embracing. It's like the mom just kind of like silently staring at her and like a slight nod of approval, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's probably all you're gonna get. You know, with this culture, that's like
that was
kind
also
of like,
all said at the beginning of the movie. There was like, it's not, you're not looking for love necessarily, but respect.
right.
I really like on the plane when he starts proposing and the lady behind her is like, yeah, she means yes, yes.
I love this mom so much too, because again, like I said before, she's not doing really like a lot of like mustache like twirling. She has a solid case where it's like, oh, that must be fucking nice to follow your ambition, to follow your fucking dreams. It's America, you know? It's kind of like, when you're over here, we make sacrifices to bring a better life to our children, and then we expect them to do the same.
Supposedly, in the book, the mom character is more villainous, and
Okay.
in this, Michelle Yeoh was like, I'm not doing this unless you allow me to like humanize her, because Michelle
Right.
Yeoh is actually from I should look at her page and not get this wrong, but she's not Asian American, she's Asian,
Right.
from wherever she comes from, Malaysian Chinese actress. So she was like, there's these things, like I think some of the like the dumpling stuff, like her,
Right.
she brought in the idea of like the grandmother criticizing her about her like dumpling making and stuff like that, and so there's a bunch of stuff that she as an actress brought to John Chu and was like, I'm not doing it unless this is part of it. I'm not going to play just a one-sided villainous character who doesn't want to like Rachel. Like there has to be a more human side to me of, I was fighting for my mother-in-law's approval at one point as well too.
Right. Yeah. But yeah,
I think it's time.
let's
Figure it out.
Let's stop hiding these fingers.
Yeah,
you're showing your fingers.
let's do it.
On review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 93% based on 228 reviews, with an average rating of 7.6 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, with a terrific cast and a surfeit of... Is that how you pronounce that? Surfeit?
Sure.
A visual razzle-dazzle. Crazy Rich Asians takes a satisfying step forward for screen representation while deftly drawing inspiration from the classic and still effective rom-com formula.
I agree.
Yes. I think there was a Facebook comment, but I don't know if I want to read it on the podcast.
Sorry, your comment sucked.
Did not like.
Angry react.
Let's get some ratings.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Oh, Ross
I saw it in
Ross is ready to
Locked
go.
and loaded, baby.
I saw it in theaters the other night. At the end of the movie, I was like, I think I know how many fingers. Like, I don't think our conversation changed me that much. I think there's definitely a lot of nuance to the successes and failures about this movie. I don't think you can deny kind of what this means for the Asian community and what it means for kind of filmmaking, that this is a movie that can succeed and resonate with audiences. I had a great time. I had my big thing of popcorn. The couple that was sitting literally 7 rows behind me seemed to enjoy it as well.
Right.
And I'm giving it 4 fingers.
Nice.
Solid.
Oh, I know. Only thing I'm missing is the thumb, which I would give it up.
I think I'm going to give it 3 fingers. I did really enjoy this movie, but I did have some like serious qualms just with the screenplay, I think. Like I think the performances are all great, especially comedically. Like it's a really funny movie. I laughed out loud. I felt really good at the end of it, which is just what you want from a rom-com. Like you want to come out just being like, love is real and I believe in it.
Yeah.
And it's all good. But there's
I
a lot of waste.
right so much after this movie.
It's a long movie and there's a lot of wasted time with the whole Astrid storyline, and it just feels like a bad sort of movie adaptation of a book. Like they didn't know how to like kill the book starlings in terms of like, this was probably a cool chapter in the book, but in like a clean rom-com movie, we don't need that Astrid storyline.
Right.
Or you need to utilize Astrid in the plot somehow so that she's not just some like side character from like a TV show. That's how it feels in this movie, because there's no tie-in, and we don't really explore Astrid enough for me to care about her relationship with Michael. And again, I was just wishing for this movie to have, especially in today's day and age, to have more of a message about money and economics. Like I think it was a good point that you brought up about the Aquafina character's family, like being pretty rich, like there's not a whole lot of contrast. Like you could have even had like Rachel be like a barista or something like that, you know, like rather than like an NYU professor, like that's still making more money than I'm probably ever gonna make in my life. So it's hard for me to like sympathize with her going to Singapore and being like, oh, they like make a lot of money, and I'm like, oh, you probably make a lot of money too, you know. I feel like there could have been a bigger contrast. There could have been a message about money, something about, you know, like the money doesn't matter, and maybe more of a willingness, even though like it was said, I feel like I wanted more proof that Henry was like, fuck it, like I'll give it all up. Like, you know, there should have been some sort of object or direct job offer or something that like he was directly sacrificing to be with her, even though like he was already,
wasn't it the chairman
but he was already sacrificing that at the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
so there was not like, I needed a transformation of like he was slightly holding on to it, and then he was like, fuck it, like I'll give all of it up to be with you, you know. I'd rather live in some like crappy, you know, like they could have been like living together in a crappy apartment or something like that, and he's choosing that over whatever. I needed a little bit more, but again, a solid movie. I laughed a lot, I had a lot of fun, so 3 fingers.
Cool. Let me see if there's anything that I wanted to say that I really missed. You know, this again, there's a lot of first in this movie. Like I said, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, you know, I don't even really remember the Joy Luck Club. I know I saw it, but you know, it's kind of just almost the first, you know, major, you know, I don't even know if I saw that in theaters. So this is like probably the most like, or this is the first like major motion picture I saw in like, you know, my local theater that I was like, oh my gosh, like an entirely you know, Asian American cast, which again, which is another big point, is that this is the first film that I've seen something where it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's a gigantic difference between Asians and Asian Americans. Like between that kind of like Asian American experience and that like Asian mainland experience. It kind of reminded me of the like Big Sick, where it's kind of like, why did you bring me here and want me to follow, like, you know, like, why did you bring me here if all you wanted me to do was, like, follow the old ways? Yeah. Like, there was a lot of kind of that theme in here. And, you know, again, with representation and everything, I feel like Asians really didn't have a lot before this besides, like, Harold and Kumar. You know, which
that was cited as like the big one,
right? Yeah,
in terms of representation.
That's like kind of all they have. I'm so glad that this movie is out there and that there's probably going to be much more following this.
I feel like it's been like a pretty good month. Like Searching is out right now.
Yeah, John Cho is back,
doing decently. There, the Meg had an Asian American actress in that as well.
Yeah, no, and
it did well, like right around the same time. It was like #1 the week before this came out, I think.
Yeah, and even the Netflix movie we're just talking about with the Asian lead.
Yeah, To All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Yeah, and I think this did like a really good job. I mean, again, with the whole like rom-com kind of American audiences following the familiar beats while introducing them to a new culture. I think there was also like a really good balance of explaining and introducing this culture, even if times they were kind of like hitting you over the head, where it was kind of like, dude, you know that if you go back to New York, you know your dad won't like yada yada yada, you know, like they did a lot of like over explaining. But I'm so glad that they weren't like, here are the rules, like it's not fucking Pandora like in Avatar, like this is a real place where people live, and this
That's
is an
the sequel,
actual...
though. They're gonna go to Pandora.
Yes.
Nick, our
This is an
honeymoon
actual culture,
in
yeah.
Pandora.
We made our fortune mining unobtainium.
And they have their bachelor party on an Akron.
But I love that they also kind of like explore this kind of like Asian American culture too, where we get like a lot of like really great like food porn kind of in this movie and everything.
I've been craving dumplings just talking about
right,
this movie.
They fucking like nail the difference between all the different dialects, and they what's it called? There's just like a spectrum of Asians, and it's so freeing to just not have like, oh, he's the Asian best friend, and they kind of just fucking shove them in like this stereotype or whatever. I don't know. Complaints is kind of like, I part of me, like, I wouldn't have cried, but like part of me was like, why didn't she just go back to New York? And like, if this was like kind of a gloom and doom ending, like kind of like, it's just like kind of like, man, like culture's weird and like sometimes it doesn't work out. Like, you know, like this was maybe the like what seems like a perfect relationship could be kind of broken by like bringing this into a different environment.
He
kind of.
eats all of her cake.
But it's kind of like spoilers for Coco, but it's kind of like, it's weird that these kind of like culture movies can end in preserving your culture and having your passion, you know, like it's weird. Like it's kind of like that.
It could have ended with a more like, you know, family is important, and I'm choosing my actual family, you know.
Right. And just one final thought: why didn't she Google him?
Do you Google people that you date?
Well, if it's such a mystery,
I Google my girlfriend
There's a
every week
camera
just
there,
to make
there's
sure that
camera
she's
there.
not the famous heiress of a rich family. Not yet, but I keep hoping.
yeah. So I'm gonna give it 3.5 fingers, right in the middle of boys.
Yeah.
Boy sandwich. So that's 3.5 fingers for the podcast total. Make my job real easy right there.
Nice.
Yeah, if you agree or disagree, leave a comment below on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're finding out about this. And obviously the easiest and most efficient ways to join our Facebook group, How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The Facebook group, and participate in the conversation that's already underway on that Facebook group. Ross, you want to throw some links for Kid Flicks before we get out of here?
Yeah.
Kid Flicks.
Yeah, Kid Flicks. Yeah,
It's a podcast.
No, we are at KidFlixPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm starting to get more rates and reviews on iTunes, so that's exciting. So if you like this appearance, just blindly click that.
Rate my podcast.
But yeah, and Joe is, as he said a couple weeks ago, he was on our live episode at as part of the Philly Podcast Festival. You both were on for our semi-review of The Iron Giant. And
we were drunk.
yeah, and I was excited because I was like, I didn't get a chance to finish the movie. But yeah, I mean, yeah, listen to KidFlix, KidFlix, wherever you listen to podcasts.
What was the episode you had coming out this week? The 12 Boys I...
Yeah, so this is coming out like this coming week.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so our very special 69th episode is coming out this week. We talk about To All the Boys I've Loved Before, the Netflix original.
Nice. So check that out, and you can find all of our stuff, as always, at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. Ross, thanks so much for coming back on.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Tune in next week for our review of The Nun, featuring author Michael Dagler, and our review of Black Klansman, featuring photographer Jordan Weinrich after that. Featured in the background of this episode. Hello. All right.
Oh, did you see me? So next week's episode for The Nun, you might see me laying down on the couch back there.
Oh, definitely. See.
Cool. You will see me being like, man, I'm out of Instagrams to look at.
I have refreshed my app many times. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.